Hello, good afternoon. My name's Tony Franklin. I'm a former gambling addict and now a campaigner for gambling reform. I'd like to talk today on the topics of spend limits, friction controls, and affordability measures. Three hot topics at the moment being discussed within government circles and the regulator, and also within the gambling industry. And this is my point of view. Now, the gambling industry over the last 2 decades has radically transformed its business and operating model from a business that was predominantly focused and made its profits from sporting events such as horse racing, dog races, football events, etc., into a business that is making huge profit from electronic gambling machines. Machines like the FOBTs found in the bookmakers, iPubs and slot fruit machines found in the pubs, and of course the fruit machines that are found in amusement arcades and seaside amusement resorts, which is actually where my addiction started, and of course online casinos. Now, this product, typically slot machines with jackpots that can run, from £100 in pubs, £500 in adult gaming centres and bookmakers, up to thousands of pounds in casinos and online. These products have been designed to be very immersive. They've got very engaging jingles and music and flashing lights, which are very appealing and designed to keep you interested and to keep you playing. And of course, that big win, or the allure of the big win, is always around the corner, although of course we know in reality that it's the operator only who wins at the end of the day. Now, around this product offer, they've built an operating model where we have affiliate marketers who literally spam people with offers of enticement, bonuses to open an account and to start playing. And then at the other end of the scale, we've got enticement for people who are losing huge sums of money to keep playing by making them VIP members and giving them tickets and trips to events and giving them a return of losses, a percentage return of losses, or encouraging them in some way to keep playing. And the idea behind this is that for people who are spending huge sums of money, if they take too much time away, then they might have enough time to reflect on their decision making, seek help for a gambling addiction, or such like, or not come back and play. So they're always enticing you to keep you in play and to keep you losing your money. So they have transformed their business in such a way that a huge amount of profit, numbers that came out on a recent television production suggested that close to 80% of the profit was coming from just 4% of players. And a great number of those players are people who are being harmed. Now, that harm, what does that look like? Well, that might be somebody spending their weekly salary, their monthly salary, in a very short space of time gambling, and then not having enough money to pay the rent, pay the mortgage, to put food on the table, to properly clothe or take care of their children. It's leading to huge arguments and fights at home. Possibly it's a cause of domestic abuse. People run out of funds, so they borrow huge amounts of money. They rack up credit card debts, payday loans, and once they've exhausted all avenues of borrowing money, then some people will go on to stealing money. And we've heard of cases where literally, big companies or medium-sized companies have been brought to their knees by somebody stealing money with which to gamble. And of course, the tragedy of all of this is that this is a preventable problem, and it's a preventable problem that for some people gets so bad that they lose all hope. And so also we've seen a huge rise in the number of families that are coming forward to talk about loved ones that they've lost for gambling related reasons. So there is a great deal of harm that's being done today by these gambling operators, and they have failed to address the harm that's being done over the last 2 decades. So from my point of view, it's really ridiculous to expect them to take the necessary measures to cut off what for them is a huge revenue stream. And remember, their focus is on their shareholders and profitability as a business. And duty of care to the people playing their products comes very much into last place. So there really is a problem here that needs addressing. It's a problem that is affecting families up and down this country, and we need to be addressing this today. Now, we've seen some really fantastic initiatives undertaken by banks to support their vulnerable customers in such situations, and we now have some of the big banks offering the ability to block gambling related spend on your debit cards, and with a cooling off period as well in a number of cases. And one of the big banks has also actually been pushing out, when you log into their app, that this functionality to freeze gambling spend is available, and thereby encouraging people to sign up for this service, which will prevent them from being exposed to, or certainly will partly prevent their exposure to gambling, in that they won't be able to use their debit card. Now, this has also been offered on some credit cards as well. The reason I haven't particularly highlighted that is because the government and the Gambling Commission have reached a consensus that gambling on credit cards should be banned. It's irresponsible to gamble with money that you don't have. And from April 2020, you will no longer be able to gamble on credit cards. So this is absolutely a step in the right direction. We will wait to see how that impacts on the operators' profits. But what we do need to do is standardise, in my opinion, the debit card blocking offer, and I think that the ability to ring up and speak to somebody, or to block it in app, and not to be able to spend on gambling with your card if you so wish, and to have that reactivated if somebody chose to do that, would require a 48-hour cooling off period. And this is fantastic measures, but it is, in many cases, only going to help people reactively. In other words, once they already have experienced great harm, and they're looking for ways to reduce that harm, this will be one tool, one measure that will assist those people. What we need to do is look at proactive ways in which we can reduce the gambling harm in the first place. Now, the gambling industry has always said that it wants to play in the middle ground, that it doesn't want to profit from gambling addiction. We know that they've not taken the actions to achieve that, and that we need to help them. That is why what I am proposing is a gambling spend limit that is set in the same way as we have an ATM cash limit, and we don't have a huge furor about that. People know that if they need more cash, that they can access that by going into the branch, or even possibly by ringing up the call centre and having their limit temporarily increased. Now, typically on a standard account, it would be £300. On a Premier account, it might be £1,000. And I would propose that you have the same principle applied, so a new policy for gambling spend, which would be exactly identical to the ATM cash limits. And this, for most people, shouldn't impact them. For all those people who are putting the odd £10 or £20 bet on here or there, they're never going to come up against this spend limit. They're not even going to know about it. So for the vast majority, it's a non-issue. It will not affect them. But for those people whose gambling spend starts to escalate, so they go from that £10 or £20 bet, or the £100 deposit in the online casino and they start chasing their losses, trying to win their money back and displaying symptoms of addiction, they will very quickly come up against the spend limit, at which point they will be stopped. Now, it could be that that will be enough for some people to re-educate themselves and to not continue. It could be that some people will present themselves on the telephone to the call centre asking why transactions are being declined. And that gives an opportunity for that person to be signposted into gambling treatment if they so wish. So this is a measure that I think needs to be given really serious discussion and consideration, and will go a long way to helping stem the tide of gambling harm that we're seeing today. So it's a measure that I strongly propose further discussion on by the government, by the committees that are investigating gambling harm in the House of Lords and also in the Houses of Parliament, because quite simply affordability measures are not working, and the gambling industry, by the very nature of the fact that they're business people, are going to be looking for the measures that will be least effective for the people who are being harmed. And so, yes, I think affordability is something that should be discussed as well, and the operators should be looking at assessing people's affordability to spend. But the sort of proposals that I've been hearing, things such as looking at somebody's address, and if they live in in Mayfair, for example, or Belgravia, that would mean that they can probably afford to gamble. That simply doesn't apply. It's the weakest indicator, really, because gambling addiction it can affect anybody, from any part of society, be that somebody who's a homeless person for whom it would be probably unaffordable to spend £1 gambling if that means that they can't eat, or they can't get themselves into a night shelter, to somebody who has a really good salary and a really good job, but their gambling starts to escalate, and those people could be living in more desirable postcode areas. So the measures that I'm hearing are just, from my point of view, the gambling industry is still not taking the issue of affordability seriously. And this is why, at this point in time, we need to take preventative, precautionary measures. And I propose for that spend limits, which are enforced as a policy by the bank. Thank you very much for listening. If you're interested in knowing more about my views, then you can find me on Twitter, www.twitter.com/gamblinghertz. Send me a message. Be more than happy to talk with you. Thank you.